morning everyone, and welcome to this meeting of the South Norfolk District Council Cabinet. For those joining online, my name is Daniel Elmer, I'm the leader of the council. I'm joined to my right by Trevor Holden, the Managing Director, and the rest of the Cabinet. Do we have any apologies for absence?
None, Chair.
Thank you very much. I haven't received any urgent items either. Any declarations of interest? No declarations. So that takes us to the minutes of the Cabinet meeting held on the 12th of January. Can I have any comments for accuracy? Are we happy for me to approve them as true and accurate record?
Yes. Yep.
Okay. And then on to the minutes of the 29th of January. Any comments on those? And we're happy for me to approve those as a true and accurate record? Thank you very much. Right, that brings us to the first substantial item. I'm going to take items 5 and 6 together, but we'll vote on the recommendations separately. But I'll hand over to Richard to introduce.
Thank you very much, Chair. I'll deal with item 5 then first, which is the Council's revenue budget for 26-27. It proposes a level of council tax for the coming year. Of course, it's one of the most significant decisions that we will need to take annually, and it will ensure our continued financial sustainability of the services we deliver. I have to say, in a most challenging national context. As members will know, the provisional local government finance settlement confirmed that the new homes bonus will be removed and the business rates growth will be fully reset. Changes, of course, that will disproportionately impact district councils like ours. Despite these pressures and the uncertainty still surrounding the final settlement, the budget before us today is balanced, robust and sustainable, reflecting a disciplined approach to financial planning. A key component of the budget is the proposal for a £5 increase in the Band D council tax, taking it to £180. Once again, this indicates a below inflation rise at a time when the cost of delivering our services, particularly waste and homelessness support and regulatory functions, has increased significantly. Keeping the rise below inflation protects residents during a period of cost of living pressures, while still providing the resources needed to maintain essential services. I'd also like to highlight that this approach continues the long-standing track record of financial competence demonstrated by this administration. Over many, many years now, through prudent budgeting, disciplined reserve management, and a clear focus on value for money, we've consistently delivered balanced budgets without resorting to drastic service reductions or the need to raid reserves. This year's budget continues that tradition of responsible stewardship. The report also sets out updated fees and charges, applied fairly and proportionately, and proposes an expansion to the Community Action Fund to reflect the strong demand and positive community impact the fund continues to generate. Members will also note that they're being asked to agree the recommended allocation of the £677,000 Silfield commuted sum, with up to £250,000 directed to Berwick Recreation Ground and the remainder to Ketts Park. This allocation directly reflects resident feedback, prioritising investment in valued open spaces rather than a new community building. And finally, Chair, on this report, the Section 151 officer has confirmed that our reserves remain adequate to support this budget and manage known risks, which is critical given the potential for the final settlement to be lower than the provisional and the ongoing exposure around planning appeals and homelessness services. So taken together, this budget demonstrates a council that is careful, forward-looking and financially responsible, prioritising frontline services, protecting residents from steep tax increases, and continuing the strong financial management that has defined this administration for many years. Turning to the capital strategy and the accompanying 5-year capital programme for 2026-27 through to 2030-2031. Well, this is, of course, a central part of our overall financial planning framework and provides the long-term direction for how we invest in the infrastructure, assets and facilities that support our communities, our economy, and the wider strategic ambitions of the Council. The capital strategy before us today outlines the principles that guide our investment decisions, ensuring they are affordable, prudent, and sustainable, while also aligned with our corporate priorities. It sets out clearly how we assess capital needs, how we prioritise schemes, and how we plan and manage external borrowing in line with the SIPFA Prudential Code. This ensures we remain a strong and resilient, maintain a strong and resilient balance sheet and can continue to invest in the right projects at the right time. The accompanying capital programme, totalling 53.7 million over the 5-year period, represents a substantial and ambitious investment programme for South Norfolk. It focuses on areas that make a tangible difference to residents, such as leisure improvements, public realm enhancements, better infrastructure, and investments in our growth and innovation corridors. Significant schemes highlighted in the programme include improvements at Kett Park, public realm and leisure upgrades in Diss, investment in leisure at Framingham Earl, and continued support for the strategic infrastructure at Ethel and the Norwich Research Park. These investments are not only about upgrading facilities, they enhance quality of life, strengthen our economic base, and ensure that the district remains a thriving and attractive place for residents and businesses. The programme has been constructed with great care to ensure deliverability, particularly in the first 2 years. Officers have reviewed and refined the projects so that those included in the short term are genuinely achievable, even with the uncertainty around potential local government reorganisation. And this commitment to realistic planning avoids over-programming and ensures projects can be delivered within the available capacity. In terms of financing, the report confirms that our capital ambitions are supported by a balanced portfolio of funding sources, including capital receipts, reserves, grants, and a little targeted borrowing. Importantly, the prudential indicators included in the report demonstrate that the programme is affordable and financially sustainable across the medium term. That assurance is vital at a time when interest rates are fluctuating and national funding streams remain uncertain. So, Chair, this capital strategy and programme reflects a council that is investing confidently in its future, prioritising the needs of communities, enabling economic growth, and ensuring our assets are fit for purpose. I commend the report to Cabinet and welcome discussion on the opportunities it sets out.
Thank you very much, Richard. Rodney, would you like to add anything?
I think Richard covered most of the points that I want covered. Just worth reiterating, this is based on the provisional settlement figures. We are expecting the final settlement figures coming out maybe today or if not tomorrow, but certainly this week. Probably also worth emphasising that this budget includes provision for the rollout of food waste next year. Obviously that's a new significant burden being placed on this council. And also probably mention that this paper also sets the special expenses for the years for Cossey and Gillingham in the report. And just a very minor point in that we've just been notified of the police settlement. So the police precept will be going up by £14.94 at the time of writing this report. We didn't know that figure. But thank you.
Thank you very much, Rodney. And thank you very much, Richard, for a very detailed overview of the budget. I think what we're seeing here is the culmination of many years of prudent management, but this year in particular, we are looking at one of the broadest and deepest sets of investment into our local communities that we've seen for some time. The reallocation of capital away from the depot projects has freed up some significant funds to allow us to invest, including another very significant investment into the largest town in South Norfolk, which I know Councillor Carsock will want to elaborate on. A new place fund, which the details of the allocation of which will come in due course, but from which I'm very keen to see those settlements in South Norfolk that have seen the most development get their share. So I expect to see allocations going towards Poor England, to Cossey, to Cringleford and others hidden away within that. And then we mustn't forget our small rural villages. What we're seeing here today is not a doubling, not even a tripling of the CAF fund, but an increase in the CAF fund to £500,000. A tightening of those rules as we bring in a new community facilities grant, also of £500,000, and a doubling of the members' ward grant at the same time. We will get this money out into our communities and to build something that is truly lasting for the residents of South Norfolk. With that, I'll move on to any other questions from the Cabinet. Martin first.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Just a question for Rodney. Do you see any future risks in relation to government spending? You sort of hinted at it there in your first comment, but do you see any imminent risks?
Thank you. I think that's a very pertinent question. Late last week, we were informed to basically expect changes to the final settlement, and these are likely to see reductions in funding being made available to district councils due to a way that they are protecting historical business rates growth in the funding formula. We don't know the exact details of those changes, but we need to be braced that there could be some reductions. I've actually got a meeting at 12:30 today with MHCLG where they may announce more details of that funding. But if there are significant changes, we'll need to report back to Cabinet and potentially full Council on the implication for ourselves. As I say, we don't know the details as yet, but we are expecting to see changes come in. And it's unfortunate, it is very late in the day. As I say, we had the provisional settlement figures before Christmas. If government is now making significant changes to that funding formula, it's given up authorities like ourselves very little time to respond and react to that. Fortunately, we are in a healthy financial position, so we have got some reserves if we are hit with reductions, but I imagine that for a number of authorities at this late stage will be very difficult for them to accommodate reductions in funding if it does materialise. As I say, I don't know until we get the details in the next couple of days.
Thanks, Rodney. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you for that, Rodney. I think that's very frank and thorough, and I think I'm quite content in saying on behalf of certainly on behalf of the administration of South Norfolk, that it's absolutely farcical, but once again, we're in a position of setting a budget or recommending a budget on a day in which the government has decided once again it's going to throw the finances up into the air for its complete inability to do any long-term planning. Yeah, I think it's absolutely despicable behaviour on behalf of the government, and I'm sure lots of other local authorities will feel the exact same way today. But I shall move on to another Cabinet question. Councillor Carsock.
Thank you. Firstly, I want to thank Rodney and his team for the hard work that they put into this, because we know it's a lot of work. We know we create stress for you with our questions and changes, and yeah, so appreciate that. Particularly for the letter, I know getting the numbers right and making sure that there's enough money in the pot to do these large capital projects is important to us. Firstly, I just wanted to point out on page 34, this section 106 agreement, which Councillor mentioned and Councillor Elliott. This has been ongoing for a long time, so thank you to Phil for putting up with my bi-weekly question on where the money is for South Windham that we've been expecting for a long time, but now we actually know the actual money allocated from that project can be spent on sport and recreation in South Windham, and pleased that colleagues have agreed to allocate 250,000 of that to the Berwick Rec development, which is a skate park and other facilities for young people and for the whole community use in South Windham, which is a great investment, as well as the rest of it going to Cats Park There was a community consultation a while back, which it mentions in 13.2. That consultation also asked people what sporting facilities they liked to use in Wymondham, and Ketts Park came out on top in that as well, so it's appropriate to use this fund. I just wanted to inform people what actually that means in terms of the Ketts Park project. So we are going to build another 3G football pitch because the current one is oversubscribed. We are planning for that to be a women's football hub, or a women and girls football hub. So we have teams lined up that would like to use that facility, and this will help us unlock more funding from the FA to invest in the football pitch, as well as new changing rooms for the football players, as well as new car park extension, because there will be more cars coming into the site. We will also be extending the cafe, remodeling the building and providing a large soft play centre for young children to use. So that increases the amount of community facility on that site. Additionally, you'll see on page 55 the other leisure list. We do have one typo, which I hate to raise, but it says Framlingamurl, which is Framlingamurl, and I knew Lisa would be very disappointed, so I had to point that out. But at Framlingamurl, we are also expanding the site. We are adding another football pitch there as well, because provision is not good enough for the whole of the district. So we have people travelling all over the place to use the all-weather pitches. So we're investing in another one there, also with external funding. So we have GNGB funds, 1.1 million allocated to that, as well as more from the Football Foundation. We'll be adding a new gym and studio space and car park extension there as well. That will enable our leisure members to access the site all day, not just nights and weekends as it is currently. So hopefully colleagues will support this going forward, but I'm very excited for what's coming for the leisure investments in the capital programme. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Minshall.
Somebody's whistling. Thank you, Chair. I sat on late last year, the CAF Community Action Fund panel to decide the bids that were going to be successful, and it was really tough because looking at the bids that we actually had and the amount of money we had to spend, it was tough having to pick from so many good needy causes. So I'm really pleased that this year we've had a second round of the CAF fund, which has introduced another 150,000 into bidding. But also later on this year, as you mentioned, we're going to have a community action fund and a community facilities grant of just about £1 million. One of the things we did notice last year was the amount of bids coming in from village halls, which are the vital hubs of our community. Bids coming in for refurbishment of kitchens, new boilers, solar panels, etc. So £500,000 in a budget for that, I particularly welcome. And also the fact that we've got a doubling of our own personal member ward grants this year to 2,000. To 2,000 plus rolling over this year for the first time any money that hasn't been spent, so possibly up to 3,000, which would really fund a decent sized project in community. So really great news there for our local villages, small villages, and indeed our towns as well. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. And just before I come to Lisa, I will also just say, because I won't want to take all the credit, and I can see Chris sitting over there, that the community facilities grant emerged originally out of conversation with both of the leaders of the two other main groups in South Norfolk, as well as the Conservative group. Lisa?
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to really comment on how pleased I was to see £350,000 in our budget, so we can continue with the business builder scheme. This was obviously previously funded by the shared prosperity funding that we used to receive, but when the new government came in, they have decided that will no longer be a funding stream. So I'm pleased that we have continued to do this. It means a great lot to businesses in our district. When I visit them, who people have used the business builder, which they can get grants for it. They also get training. They can go to the Carrick Training Centre. And it's a lot of these businesses are start-up businesses or small businesses perhaps that were operating from home and they want to expand, and we help them find premises as well. So it's something that is excellent. We do that and really helps our economy in South Norfolk, because it's a tough time for all businesses at the moment with all the changes. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Any questions from the floor?
Thank you, Chair. This is about the Section 106 money for Sealfield. The Cabinet is asked to ring fence this money for Berwick Rec of 250,000, and the rest going to Ketts Park, which I assume is 427,758 and 46p. Now, Ketts Park has seen a considerable amount of investment by South Norfolk over the last few years, but it's a paid-for facility, and I know that users of the facility are not all Wyndham residents. So I also question why spend money on a leisure facility whose future could be uncertain once South Norfolk disappears and whichever unitary authority comes in. I also see on this agenda that the Health and Wellbeing Partnership speak of their mission to enhance the health and wellbeing of collective communities in South Norfolk by providing inclusive services and interventions which are accessible to all. So does this mean free to all, maybe? On page 399, the Greater Norwich Green Infrastructure Strategy says inclusive green spaces ensure accessible green spaces and routes are socially inclusive, safe and well maintained in order to provide a welcoming environment for all residents in line with active environment priorities. There's also mention of 18% of Year 6 children are obese. 1 in 5 teenagers are classed as obese by the age of 17. There are other stats as well, but also the fact that Ketts Park is actually almost 2 miles away from the very development where this money is meant to be earmarked for, whereas Berwick Recreation Ground is a lot closer. Town Council has already committed 250,000 to this project. We are ready to go. Our plans are now at the planning stage. They're with the planners here. But further money could unlock further improvements, such as providing a multi-games area which includes things like a basketball court, outside table tennis equipment, picnic tables, wheelchair accessible paths, informal running track and maybe even a rounders pitch, and also enhancements to the biodiversity around the outskirts of the park which provide a rich environment for flora and fauna. For the residents of Sealfield, Berwick is their nearest informal recreation park. The deed of variation with the developer clearly states enhancement or extension of community and recreation leisure facilities within Wyndham that are accessible to and can benefit the inhabitants of this development. I should also state that we're very lucky in Wyndham that we've got numerous play parks for younger children, but the leisure space at Berwick is the only one really designed for older children. Ideally, I would ask the Cabinet for the total sum to be allocated to the Berwick Park project because it's ready to go and with the planners at the moment. But perhaps a working compromise would be switching the funding, so 250 goes to Ketts Park with the remainder going to Berwick instead. And I just hope the Cabinet will, consider this. Thanks very much.
Thank you very much, Councillor. I mean, I share your concern about the long-term sustainability of the leisure facilities in Wyndham, and part of this investment is about ensuring that financial viability going into the future so that the overall package of leisure can stand on its own 2 feet, whatever the future may hold for us. The other thing that we're very cognizant of here is what interventions allow us to leverage in the most amount of external money. Likewise, as with Berwick Rec, there's money available from the Town Council. As with Ketts Park, there's some significant funds to be leveraged in from the Football Association as well at the same time, and we're very keen not to miss those opportunities. But what I will do is I'll pop over to Phil as well just to talk about the legalities of the 106 agreement, and then I'll pop over to Councillor Carsog, who I'm sure will want to respond as well.
much, Chair. Yeah, just in terms of the legalities of the Section 106, as you can see in Section 13 of the report, it's an unusual situation, a unique situation. Normally, the Section 106 identifies what the money will be spent on. Because of the deed of variation to this particular Section 106, there is a greater scope of use. My apologies, I've got the wording directly in front of me, but it is for recreational leisure facilities within Wyndham. And therefore that money is coming into South Norfolk Council, and it is South Norfolk Council's decision as to how to allocate that money in accordance with that broad parameter in the Section 106.
Kim?
Thank you. Personally, I'm comfortable with the way that we've split it at the moment based on what the public consultation results showed. So I think if you probably put into the public domain the plans for Cats Park versus skate park, I think that the overall benefit to the community would be higher and would be preferred to the people. But by splitting it in this way, I think it's appropriate for what people have said in the surveys. I think also the long-term sustainability of the Cats Park project is evidenced in that we do charge people. Obviously, their football clubs pay to use the football pitches. We have to pay staff to be there to look after the community. We have people on site, say first aiders, for example, available to jump in if anything is necessary. Berwick Rec wouldn't be a staffed facility. And personally, I haven't seen a business case and how long-term they will be able to replenish that investment. So will money be put away for the next 30 years so that in 30 years' time, the skate park will be renewed or not? Personally, I can't see the business case that would stack up. And I think that matters in terms of the Section 106 guidelines in terms of long-term sustainability of a project. So personally, I'm happy with the way it's split at the moment. Thank you.
Before I come to you, Jim, I'll just ask Suzanne if she wants to come back as well.
Yeah, thanks for that. I'm sorry, but I don't agree that it's an equal split of this money. As I said, we have been after this commuted sum for quite some time. And I'm afraid to say that Councillor Carslock even voted against the Berwick Skate Park when it came to Town Council, as she was still on the council there. This is a free facility. It's informal leisure. People won't have to pay to use it. By adding another football pitch at Ketts Park and maybe other enhancements as well, it's just about football, and it's not just about football. There are children that want to do other things: skate park, rounders, basketball. The fact that this can be a more family friendly facility as well, in that you'd have picnic tables and things like that. So I'm afraid I don't agree with the way that it's been split, and I would ask the Cabinet to reconsider.
Okay, thank you. I will let Councillor Carslock come back in a second. I do take your points on board. I will just say that this isn't just about football. Obviously, there's also the soft play element, circular walk element, etc. But I will let you come back in.
I'm not entirely sure, but correct me if I'm wrong. This council hasn't received any funding requests for Berwick Rec. We haven't seen documents asking for money. We haven't gone to GNGB to ask for funding on behalf of Berwick Rec Skate Park. We haven't seen anything apart from a planning application, possibly. Is that right, Phil?
So we've not had a formal process for the Town Council to submit. So no, we haven't received a formal request, but nor has there been a formal process set up. To be fair to the Town Council, there has been correspondence for a number of months about a desire for a skate park. That's been on their agenda. There's been requests about, is there any funding available? There's been an awareness, because most of the town have been aware of this fund. So there's been a communication, but I'd repeat, there's not been a formal submission, but nor has there been a formal process to submit that bid or business case to.
But there was a formal process for Silco investment, which they chose not to apply for when we had that. So they've allocated 250,000 in SIL towards it. So they could have applied for Silco investment, but they did not.
So there's not been a formal process to submit to the Greater Norwich Growth Fund, the IF fund, which is before you later on today. No.
Okay, I'm going to move the conversation on a bit. Obviously, we've created the provision in the event the request does come forward, at which point I anticipate that we would look favourably upon it. there is always the option, as you identified, to shift money round. But what I would highlight is fundamentally, if you disagree with the Ketts Park project, then fine. But if we cut another 200,000 or 300,000 out of it at the second, that 200,000 or 300,000 would then have to be identified from somewhere else for completion. At the second, I don't see an obvious spot within the budget to find another 200,000 or 300,000 to put into Wyndham, and I would be hesitant to make that allocation, knowing the range of other projects across South Norfolk that would be coming forward. At the moment, to put another 200,000 or 300,000 into Wyndham, which is effectively the medium-term impact of that proposal to complete the Ketts Park project once money had been moved out of that and into the Berwick Rec project, would effectively be moving money out of, for example, Quingleford, Poor England, Cossey, etc. So I can't support that today, although obviously there is still space after Cabinet for that proposal to come forward. Jim?
I think one of the challenges with this is that the proposal is for Cabinet to agree with this, which does effectively the paper in front of it, which will not come to Council, and the money will effectively then be allocated to this Wyndham project. And I wanted to just add a couple of points, really, which was one, that as a member of the Health and Leisure Committee, I visited Ketts Park. I've been well aware of the aspirations to develop it and well aware of the potential of the site and the need to improve the economics and the viability of it. That's all fine. But as a member of that committee, I've seen absolutely no specific proposals for how it should be developed. I looked through our delivery plan, which is later on the agenda. There is nothing specifically in there for Wyndham whatsoever. And I question if this proposal will even be delivered in the lifetime of this council. In comparison, we have something which, subject to planning permission, which I'm sure will be given, is completely deliverable. And more importantly than that, I question the legality of this. The Section 106 money was very clearly intended to benefit the residents of the new build housing and those who live nearby in a very specific area of Wyndham. And that's consistent with both the original Section 106 and the deed of variation, as far as I can see. Investing most of the money somewhere that's 2 miles away, which is only going to be accessible to many people with a motor car, is not really sustainable and is not really consistent with the original objectives of the 106. And I think the council may well be at risk of legal challenge. So I think it is far too early, given the controversy about this, for you to agree with the proposal in front of you.
Apologies, by the way, I just realised I'd left my microphone on while you were talking there. I won't go into the legalities again because Phil's already commented on that. And I will also thank you for highlighting the delivery plan point, because actually that's on my list of amendments as we go down the agenda today when we get to that. But I will let Councillor Carsock come back on the timelines for delivery.
So the Ketts Park project, Jim, was on the capital programme already in 2023. It was taken off when we were reallocating projects due to the total cost of the capital programme going up as time went on and construction costs went up. It's come back in now because of the Section 106 money being available and because of the public consultation that was done around the Section 106. Originally, the plan was to build a cricket pavilion on that housing estate. Unfortunately, the property they chose for it was too small and people didn't want a building there. The town council didn't want to have to look after a facility out that way. So this is why this has come about. They had the opportunity to run a Wyndham Town Council facility for the community on that site and they didn't want it. No cricket clubs wanted it, as far as I know. So the other thing I would like to say is this thing about the distance from Berwick Rec and Ketts Park to Silfield I find quite amusing, because Berwick Rec and Ketts Park are much closer together than the new build estate from which this money is coming. So it's a bit of a red herring saying that you could walk to Berwick Rec but you couldn't to Ketts Park, because people are going to drive to either of them.
I'm concerned this is going to get into a tit for tat between different representatives of Wyndham. Can we just?
It's not factually true.
But can we just? What are the rough timescales for delivery?
So the Ketts Park project would be open and ready for customers in April 2027. the football pitch would be finished in the summer of 27 and open in autumn 27.
The other point I would make is in terms of having accessible facilities, the idea of a women's only football club sounds as if it's accessible to only roughly 50% of the population.
It's not women's own.
Do you want to come back on that, Kit?
It's not a women's only football club, it's that it would be a hub of girls and women's football, which includes more women's football teams than the usual, but there would also be access to boys and men.
Terry.
Thank you, Chair. Just want to take the opportunity of raising the flag of COSI in this conversation. During my time as a councillor, some years, I've seen lots of money spent across South Norfolk, particularly in leisure areas. We haven't benefited from that in COSI, and I was very pleased to hear that the thoughts about setting aside some money for development in COSI. Like my colleagues in Wymondham, we have significant investments in COSI in three community centres and lots of football in 3 centres. We've recently been working very closely with Phil's team on development at Queen's Hills, and in parallel with this, my team I speak also with the hat of chair of COSI Town Council, have been working hard on looking at how we actually improve the youth offering beyond the young youth, if you will, because we have a number of play areas, play parks. We don't touch that demographic of the the middle to late teenagers, and so given that I had the news, I don't know what sort of budget you have in mind within the delivery, but I have had meetings with my colleagues in COSI Town Council. They have established and brought forward a central project for Queen's Hills, pump track, climbing wall features, outdoor gymnasium and cover. This is costed at the moment, and this is early days of development, of the order of 400,000 plus. There are other smaller projects that would infill it. So if the council were looking to provide a budget of the order of £500,000, we would absolutely be able to spend that without any question. So I really wanted to say, I'm hoping I'm saying thank you. And I'm hoping that will turn into something a little bit more definite within the budget propositions that will go to council, that COSI would indeed like to avail itself of upwards of £500,000 of South Norfolk investment. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Terry. And yes, the place fund, which I need to come up with a more definitive name for, I suspect, of 2.25 million. COSI is very much what I have in mind there, and that project that you just referenced very much sounds like something that we would be likely to look favourably on when it comes forward, and I look forward to seeing the full details in due course. Jim?
There are a number of new projects in the sphere of public realm, individually quite small, but collectively amounting to a considerable sum of money. I wonder if those could be explained in a bit more detail, because we sort of get 1 or 2 word summaries here and there, fairly meaningless.
Can you just tell me which ones you're referring to specifically?
Well, so you could say a bit about Lawton Staithe, which is a bit more obvious, but the In Bloom grant would be one. The parish street cleaners grant. That would be the other one, I think.
So the In Bloom grant, that's quite simple. The principle is for every single parish in South Norfolk, there will be £1 for every resident available on a match-funded basis to go towards flower displays to create what I would call an immediate visual effect in those areas. Again, very much the goal of the overarching principles of this budget is what can we do to deliver real-term difference in local communities quickly? As you and Terry always hold me to account for correctly, our ability to deliver things. This is something that can be immediately delivered. But yes, that's the principle, £1 per resident matched, available to every parish. The street cleaners, Martin, do you want to come back on that?
So with the reference to street cleaners, are you talking about the machines?
Yes.
We've currently trialled a new street cleaner in Wymondham, and we are purchasing one for them in the next round. We've approached a number of other local towns with a view to promoting that scheme further. So that's still in hand. Sorry, DIS. What did I say? Wymondham. Sorry, DIS. And I think that delivery is imminent within the next month or two.
So just for clarification, it's not a fund that parishes can apply to. It's more one by invitation, or it's for the larger parishes?
It was mainly looked at for the larger parishes, towns. Yes, initially, yeah. So not smaller villages.
I think it's fair to say the principle behind this is basically we would be happy to do the capital expenditure. The main onus on the parish council in question is to operate it and store it. Any parish that is prepared to take on those costs, we would consider an approach from.
Thank you for that. I mean, just from my personal experience, and I think some of my colleagues, we questioned the In Bloom Fund. I remember trying to give away the £300, what was it called, Litter Picking In Bloom Fund last time. Some of my parishes went for it, some didn't. Some of those that went for it regretted it. And where it has been spent, I think it's made a small difference. But I don't think it's made a lasting difference. And I just wonder what evidence you've got that there is strong demand across the majority of the parishes in South Norfolk to take up this kind of funding.
I think you're absolutely. The reality is, will the entire provision be spent? No. We know not every parish in South Norfolk is going to take that up. There is the provision there in the event they do. My working assumption is those that do take it up will be those that can deploy it in a way that does make a lasting difference to those areas. And my concern has, throughout this process, and this will link in as well with both the CAF fund and the Community Facilities Fund and the doubling of the members' allowances, is we spend an awful lot of time talking about these big investments into places like Wymondham or Diss or Heatherset. We need to make sure that we have a consistent offering where small villages out in rural areas can also see an impact. Yes, although if there's anything else other than the Bloom Fund, because there's a lot of stuff in it. Jim.
My concern, my observation was we're trying to tell the smaller parishes how to spend the money.
Just to say, the In Bloom grant, the Pride in Place one, was one of the most popular grants we've ever had. So it was basically £300. You can do whatever you want with it: plants, litter picking equipment, ponds, whatever you want. And all they had to do was send us a picture and say we've done it. So I'd love to hear feedback from anyone who felt that that was a negative experience for them, because we had to keep upping the pot because so many people wanted it. I think it was 50% of parishes took it up. And then the same will be true of this grant. That we will try to make it as easy as possible. It's not like you have to jump through a million hoops, but the purpose is £1 per person in the district is available for making your area better. And that includes things like the Nature Recovery Grant, which Councillor Elmer led on. That was heavily oversubscribed as well. So there's lots of different community groups in parishes. It doesn't have to be the parish council asking for the money. I think it would go quite well, personally.
That is an important clarification. It is not just available to parish councils, it's that basis within those. And I'm going to let Martin come in as well, and then I've seen Suzanne.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Just very quickly, Jim, you linked the Bloom with litter picking. We had over 79 groups come forward for litter picking last year, and the request was to open it a lot earlier. We've responded to that, and the litter picking, the South Norfolk Great Litter Pick starts on the 16th of February this year, which is a month early, and the funds on that have been slightly reallocated, which I can email you the details. But there's a large take-up on litter picking, and it's well received by all our villages and communities.
Much.
And I thank you for that, Jim.
Suzanne.
Thank you, Chair. What I wanted to ask was that we clearly need more information about this and in Bloom groups. There are other groups around our district, such as the Loddon Flower Group, whose seasonal displays are supported by local businesses. Does this mean that this group and others would not qualify because this is for only those groups that have In Bloom in their title? Because in Wymondham, for example, we also have the Rotary Club and the local branch of Lions International Club that look after planters. So does that mean they would qualify for funding, or they can't because they don't have In Bloom in their title?
So guidance on this, the CAP Fund and the Community Facilities Fund will be forthcoming, but it's very much my goal that on the In Bloom Fund that participation be as widely available as possible. I will just take the opportunity to elaborate a little bit and say that on the CAF Fund, it is my intention to see the rules on that significantly tightened this year, given that the Community Facilities Fund is available for the repair of community facilities and upgrades to them. I would like the CAF Fund to now be focused very much on delivering what I would call new community interventions and facilities rather than upgrades and repairs to existing ones. Any other questions on the budget or capital programme? Are we happy to move on? Okay. I'm going to take the different recommendations. I'm going to take the recommendations for 5 first. So, are we happy that we approve the 26-27 base budget, subject to confirmation of the finalised local government finance settlement figures, and all that entails, and authority to make any such change to be delegated to the Assistant Director for Finance? Although it is probably worth mentioning that given the government's figures may change more significantly than we were anticipated, that will obviously be in consultation with the rest of the Cabinet. And that the Council's demand on the collection fund for 26-27 for general expenditure shall be £9,881,280, and for special expenditure shall be £7,540. That the Band D level of council tax be increased by £5 to £180 for general expenditure. That the Band D level of council tax be 14 pence for special expenditure. That the Cabinet agree to the proposed fees and charges as set out in section 6. That the Cabinet notes the advice of the 151 officer with regard to section 25 of the Local Government Act 2003 contained in section 12 of the report, and the medium-term financial strategy projections. That we agree the new CAF ground rules. And that the Cabinet agrees to the receipt of the contribution. I tell you what, I will take 5 separately. Are we happy to agree 4 on block? Okay. Are we happy to agree to the receipt of £6,777, £677,758.46 paid in lieu of the on-site provision of the community building to be paid to the District Council for the provision, enhancement or extension of community and recreation leisure facilities within Wymondham Parish, and agrees to allocate this sum as follows: up to £250,000 towards enhancements at Berwick Rec, and with the remainder to go towards enhancements at Ketts Park. Fine. That's all agreed. Moving on to the capital strategy and capital programme. Are we happy to recommend to Council the capital strategy and the capital programme for 26-27 to 2030-31, and to note the advice of the 151 officer in regard to section 12 of the capital strategy? Thank you very much. That's all agreed. Okay, I'm going to say we take the Treasury management strategy, that I'm going to allow a comfort break, given the length of the agenda today. So, Richard, do you want to take the Treasury management?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. So the Treasury Management Strategy Statement for 2026-27, along with the supporting prudential indicators. So this strategy is a core part of our financial governance framework. It sets out how we will manage the Council's cash flows, investments and the borrowing over the coming year in a way that protects public money while supporting delivery of our capital programme. Treasury management, of course, is a technical issue, but it's not just a technical exercise. It ensures that we meet our legal obligations under the CIPFA Treasury Management Code and Prudential Code, and it provides the assurance that our investments prioritise security, liquidity and yield in that order, reflecting our consistently prudent approach to financial risk. The report confirms that the Council's stance continues to be one of caution, which is absolutely appropriate given current economic uncertainty and the pressures faced across local government. One of the key considerations this year is the wider interest rate environment. The strategy notes that interest rates are expected to decline over the course of 2026, which will impact the level of income we can achieve on our cash balances. So this is particularly relevant as we can draw down resources to fund capital schemes, meaning both lower interest rates and lower balances will potentially reduce investment income. And that is clearly reflected in the forward projections contained within the report. The strategy also highlights the Council's position on borrowing. It confirms that we do not anticipate any new external borrowing until 2029-2030, when the redevelopment of the waste depot is expected to require it. Until then, the Council will continue to rely on internal borrowing and existing loans to finance the capital programme itself. This approach minimises risk and avoids unnecessary exposure to interest rate volatility. Another notable change this year is the decision to remove longer-term investment instruments from the strategy, and this reflects the ongoing uncertainty surrounding potential local government reorganisation. Locking the Council into long-term investment commitments could create complications if organisational arrangements change, so maintaining flexibility is both prudent and sensible. The report also proposes an increase to the loan capital limit for Big Sky, ensuring the Council can continue to support the company in a controlled and compliant way. This adjustment reflects the revised Big Sky financing model, and as already agreed by members, and ensures that the Treasury management strategy remains aligned with our wider commercial and housing delivery ambitions. So, Chair, this strategy demonstrates exactly what we would expect from a financially responsible authority: a cautious and well-balanced approach that protects the Council's financial integrity while enabling us to deliver our investment commitments. It shows that we remain alert to risks, particularly in relation to interest rate movements and organisational uncertainty, and that our governance arrangements are strong and mature. And as such, Chair, I commend the report to Cabinet.
Thank you. Anything to add, Rodney?
I think Councillor Elliott has covered everything, but just for context, we currently have just under £50 million in investments. You can see the size of the monies we are dealing with on behalf of the Council.
Any questions from the Cabinet? No. Any questions from the floor? Nope. Okay, I'm not going to read these out. We're happy to agree the Treasury management strategy and all the associated documents are set out in 7 on page 77. Yep, brilliant, thank you. Actually, seeing as we've still got 5 minutes to 10, let's do the delivery plan as well quickly. Back over to you,
Sorry,
Richard.
I'm going to get
You've thrown him in there.
a little bit annoyed with hearing my voice, probably, or fed up with hearing it. So the delivery plan then, 2026 to 2028, and I'll wait for Matt Lemons to join us as the author and architect of this report. So this delivery plan for the next 2 years turns our strategic plan into a clear set of actions and prioritises for the next 2 years what we're going to do. The plan has been shaped through member workshops and developed alongside the budget to ensure everything in it is deliverable and properly resourced. It sets out programmes across our 4 strategic priorities, each with clear outcomes, timescales and performance measures, supported by a strong monitoring framework so Cabinet can track progress throughout the cycle. It includes waste and recycling reforms, business support programmes, biodiversity duties, public realm and leisure improvements, and digital transformation projects. Performance indicators will support quarterly monitoring. This plan provides a focused, realistic roadmap for delivering the outcomes that matter most to our communities. And I want to thank Matt Lemons for preparing the report, and I should have in previous reports also thanked our finance team for the diligence they showed in preparing their reports. But on this particular one, also to thank Matt and ask him if he has any specific detail to add or answer any questions ahead of Cabinet potentially asking questions.
Thank you, Councillor Elliott. You've already given a very good comprehensive overview of the paper. The only thing that I would emphasise is that throughout its development, we have focused on achieving the strategic plan in a way that acknowledges upcoming local government reorganisation. For example, considering whether initiatives can be delivered before reorganisation and the ongoing benefit to our district. So there has been a strong focus on that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now, I know we've got at least one amendment, seeing as Jim very helpfully raised it for us earlier, so I'll allow Kim.
Yes, thank you, Jim. We need to add on page 115, which is 10 of the delivery plan, and line item for Cats Park, please. So we have this in Framingham Rural capital improvements there. And I don't think George is here, but I did want to ask a question on page 113, the Let's Go campaign tourism initiative, which is I was quite excited to see. We'll be promoting a series of walks to promote healthy lifestyles throughout the district, and I think that'll be a great programme. And I think we have a lot of tourism angles we could explore there. So I'd love to know what the budget allocated to marketing materials is for that. Thank you.
I'll ask Phil if he knows the answer off the top of his head.
My apologies, George is actually off sick today, so he was intended to be here, but and off the top of my head, I don't know what the budget is. I'm going to be bold enough to say it's not a significant budget because it's being, it's relatively a low-cost piece of work, and we're working with partners to deliver it. But in terms of specific details, I don't have that.
Thank you. I assume George is off sick because he took a healthy country walk through our lovely country pubs.
I'll pass it on to him.
Thank you, Chair. Matt, just under E10 on page, is it 110? I think it's worth mentioning that this attracts quite a significant amount of money, and there's 11 projects under this one topic here, which includes the money for a new country park, and I just wondered whether they could be broken out in there so that we can actually see them listed. Because I don't feel that truly reflects those 11 projects under E10. just a comment. If that could be done, that'd be great. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Houghton. We will take that for consideration in the revision prior to council.
Thank you very much. Any comments on the delivery plan from the floor? Chris.
Thanks, Chair. Just one very small thing I picked up from it was mention at E6 about proactively working to prevent incidents of fly tipping, and fly tipping is a big issue in a lot of our rural areas, well, right across the district, but particularly in some of our rural areas. And I've seen our rapid response to resolving fly tipping situations, and I just want to make sure that we're not only looking to prevent fly tipping, but we are really taking action against those who are found to be fly tipping, and ensuring that our farmers and things like that who are disrupted by fly tipping are supported in making sure that we can clear that up as quickly as we can.
Do you want to come back on that, Martin?
Yeah, thanks for that, Chris. As you may recall, at last full council, we approved the RIPA legislation, which allows covert surveillance, and the unit in relation to fly tipping are doing a lot of proactive work, and we are doing this by putting cameras in and trying to enforce wherever we can. And I think the submission of reports now from members of the public or parish councils is helping us proceed on more prosecutions as and where the evidence exists. And that, as I say, that unit is very proactive. And we've certainly got the powers now, following that last council meeting where it was approved, to actually follow that through. Thanks, Chris.
Thank you. Any other comments from the floor? No, thank you. And I'll just come back a little bit as well, just to highlight on your comments about LGR. It's absolutely appropriate that we prioritise those programmes that can be delivered in the life cycle of this council. It's also important, though, that we do remember that LGR was a programme this government embarked on without it having pre-flagged it in its manifesto. And whilst it's important we put this own council in the best position possible, it must not detract from delivering the rest of the delivery plan, which reflects the democratically elected administration's priorities. Okay, with that, are we happy to endorse the performance for, no, that's the next up report. Are we happy to recommend that council approves the adoption of the delivery plan for 26-28? Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, with that, I'm going to ask Leah if we can pause the recording shortly, and we shall reconvene at 10 minutes.